Good morning and welcome to the ISM Lunch and Learn series for July. Today we're going to be looking at Sage 100 sales order, trips and tips, everything you needed to know that you didn't think you needed to know. We're going to be talking with Mr. Robert Rusaniello with ISM, who will be presenting today. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. All lines will be muted for the presentation, but we will be opening them up at the end for any questions. Also, please feel free to utilize the chat window or the raise your hand icon if you have questions. We'll be reviewing those at the end. With all of that, I'm going to turn this over to Robert to get started. Robert, thank you and welcome.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Great. Well, folks, we're going to be diving into the sales order module of Sage 100. And I'm not necessarily going to be doing a full-blown demo, but we're going to be covering some tips within the module that you may or may not be using, as well as taking a look at the Lines tab of the sales order module and kind of diving into maybe what some of those fields are. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the things we're going to look at. We're going to look at how sales orders can actually check for duplicate customer PO numbers. Okay, Sage has the ability to essentially check for duplicate PO numbers so that if you've created a sales order or if you've invoiced, it will at least warn you if you try and enter in another sales order with that same customer PO number. So I'll show you where you set that up and how that works. A new feature in the recent version is promoting quotes to orders. Not only do we promote quotes to orders, it actually records the date that that quote does get updated to a sales order. We'll also briefly take a look at purchase control maintenance. This has been a feature in the system for a while. It's really nice if you're in an industry where you can only sell certain items to certain customers, or you can't sell certain items to certain customers. Let's say you have some items, they're perishable or food items, and you can only sell them to US-based customers. We can actually create an area that says if I try to sell this out to a customer that is outside of the US, it will warn me. So kind of take a look at that feature as well. Another nice feature recently was the ability to really keep the picking sheet window open and just go to town. You can reprint picking sheet after picking sheet without having the window close up on you and start the process again. This has been a long time coming, so we'll take a look at that. Another one also is batch transfer. So if you have multiple batches open, whether they be in shipping data entry or invoice data entry, and you need to move a shipment or invoice from one batch to another, rather than deleting that transaction and having to key it in, we can now simply move it. So a nice feature that was just introduced to the system recently. Another one, if you're dealing with lot numbers, when you're and you actually allocate lot numbers to a specific sales order, you can now do a search within the sales order based on that lot number. You have to think that they've added this in sales orders, so at some point soon they will do the same in shipping or invoice data entry, especially for those customers that have batches that contain hundreds of invoices. Rather than run a report, it would be great to simply use a lookup to see where that lot number exists in your batch. And then finally, I'll go through really the multitude of fields. If you go into the sales order or even invoice entry, and you go to tab number 3, the lines tab, there's a multitude of fields, and we often get questions as to what exactly is that? What does DC stand for? What does DS stand for? So we'll kind of go through those, and I'll explain what those fields do. So with that said, I'm going to jump in the system right now, and go ahead and it's larger. So first off, if we go to sales order options, and we're going to have options for setting where our system wants to check for duplicate PO numbers. Okay, if these are unchecked, the system is just not going to validate against other orders or invoices. So we can check for duplicate POs here, as well as there's other areas here. If we want to turn on purchase control maintenance, we can essentially do that in this area. If we want to turn on lot serial distribution in sales order, okay, we can certainly do that here. And the other areas we're going to talk about essentially are automatically installed with the system, depending on the version. I'm on version 2017, 5.4. Some of the features that we'll be going over are only available in 2017. So let's start with the duplicate customer PO. So I have an example. If I go into invoice history inquiry, oops, get this closed. And let's go ahead and pull up my favorite customer, 01ABF. They're my favorite because they're the first customer in the system. There is an invoice number 10033. There's a customer PO number XX890200. So the customer has already called up, gave us a PO number, and has transacted against it. If by error I decide to create another sales order to ABF with the customer PO number of XX890200, the system is going to warn me, hold on, that customer PO number already exists. Do I want to take a look at which documents it exists in? If I hit documents, I can drill into either the invoice that's been posted or the open sales order that actually created that invoice. And then I can review it, research it, determine if this truly is a duplicate or not. Now, it is a warning, okay? It will allow me to accept it if I hit continue. But it at least definitely warns me, stops me, that this may be a duplicate, okay? So a nice feature if you have multiple folks, well, even if you don't have multiple folks, if you're concerned that last thing you want is to have a duplicate order and possibly get fulfilled multiple times. Another feature is promoting a quote to order and having that recorded in the system with the current date. That may be important if you're working with salespeople and you want to find out how long it takes for a typical order or for a typical quote to be transferred to an order. Within time, you'll get an idea that it may take you 4 days for a quote to turn into an order. So that may affect, how you either work or compensate salespeople. But with that said, I'm going to take a look at my orders. I happen to have a quote. It's an order type Q to ABF, my favorite customer. And At this point, I'm going to change it to a sales order. I'm going to promote it to a sales order. Now we know that it's very easy to promote a quote to a sales order. All we have to do is open up the quote, hit standard order, and hit accept. And it's going to ask us, do we want to promote this quote to a standard order? I'm going to hit yes. And I'm going to take a look at, it would have helped if I figured out the order number, but the good part is mostly everything is in the year 2020, except for the orders I have today, which is number 207. And you'll see that it's a standard order, and it says promoted to order on 7/18. And actually, let me take a look at the date. Yep. So it got promoted today, so we are good. So again, this is certainly helpful. We can use this in reports, or if you're just looking, just for research purposes, it's now documented with the system. Next stop on our list, purchase control maintenance. So this feature actually takes a little bit of setting up. If we go into sales order and we go into setup, we have purchase control maintenance. And when I set up, when I actually turned this on in sales order options, I had the choice to either configure this area to say, allow my customers to only order these items, or allow my customers not to order these items. I actually selected allow my customers to only order these items. So if I look at my list and I have my favorite customer, ABF, I can actually list the items that they're allowed to buy. As you can see, we can do the same thing with product lines. If we want them only to purchase from a product line, let's say that in my earlier example, we have foreign customers, and we only want those foreign customers to buy goods in a product line that has been deemed for them, as opposed to having to outline every item that they can buy. We can group them into a product line called foreign, and we can give those customers the ability to only buy anything in product line foreign. But in this case, I decided to only use an item code. So ABF, our customer, is only going to be able to order or buy, which happens to be our first item in our item list. So let's take a look at that in action. If we go into the sales order module, and we go into sales order entry, and we key in a new sales order number, and our favorite customer, 01 ABF. And I go to tab number 3, and we try and purchase a different item that they are not allowed to buy. We get a warning sign. You've entered an item that is not allowed for purchase by this customer. Do you want to proceed? Now, as you could see, it's giving me the option to hit yes or no. This is also a security feature in role maintenance that you can turn on or off. I have the ability to have the choice to sell it to them yes or no. You can take that ability away from users so that they don't even have the option, so that they don't mistakenly select yes when you are absolutely not allowed to sell an item to this customer. In my case, I have the ability, so I can hit yes and continue. If I hit no, it's as if I didn't type anything to begin with. And of course, since our customer is able to buy our wonderful desk or letter file, we don't have that warning. So purchase control maintenance, a wonderful way to essentially limit what your customers can or limit what they can't buy. Now with that feature, again, it is a one-stop deal. So in sales order option, I have the ability to control purchases based on items allowed or items not allowed. So if I decide that I'm going to limit customers to items allowed, I will not be able to essentially set up a table where customers cannot buy something. It's kind of an either or. Very good. Next up, picking sheet printing. A nice tool that was introduced recently. If I go into picking sheet printing, I now have print and preview buttons. Without these buttons, if you are printing picking sheets, of course, after you print the picking sheet, this window would disappear. So if you are running 5 picking sheets in tandem, I'll click these two guys. I'm going to select one, and I'm going to hit preview. And after it comes up, I'm back at my picking sheet printing window. Again, these buttons were a feature that Sage started several versions back with certain reports, and then they've moved into the forms, and now it's available in picking sheet printing. So definitely a nice feature if you're printing a multitude of picking sheets at one time and don't want to get kicked out. One other thing I'll mention, this is one that I know we've talked about before. Any of these lookup windows, you have the ability to say, show me order number equals 112, or you can do a range, okay, and the system automatically changes it to a range. It knows that you have 2 values in here. However, let's say that you didn't want a range, you just wanted this picking sheet and this picking sheet. What most of our clients don't realize is anywhere there is a parameter in the system, any of these fields, we can choose a comma and essentially, oops, let's try that again, comma 000,043. Oops. Oh, I had. So what this is going to do is it's not going to require a range. It's going to allow me to print order number 112 and order number 43. This could be also useful if you're running a GL detail report, if you're running a sales order report, and you want to print out things that are not in sequential order or not in a range. It's a nice shortcut to use. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind if you're trying to run things that are in disparate order. You can certainly do so simply by putting a checkbox, or I'm sorry, a comma in your parameter. Next up, batch transfer. So in my example, if I go into invoice data entry, I happen to have one invoice in my batch, okay? But I wanted to move this invoice to another batch so that it gets posted with that batch. I can simply open up that invoice, and it works just the same in shipping data entry. Once I have it open, I have this little icon that says transfer document. I can click on it, and I can either select a destination batch, or I can go ahead and create a new batch right off the bat, number 18. Now when I go back and look at my open batches, I have 16, 17, and 18. My invoice was successfully moved from 16 to 18. It no longer exists in 16, and there it is in batch 18. So this can be useful, again, if you have multiple batches and maybe one of your invoices should get posted to a different date. You can simply pull that invoice out, or let's say you have some tax calculation issues, or you have some issues with some invoice, but you don't want to stop or you don't want to hold up the posting of the batch. You can simply move that invoice over to its own batch so that you can post your large batch and then be able to evaluate this invoice for fixing. Okay, so another new feature, batch transfer. Nice little helpful tool. Lot search in sales order. So if you're using serial or lot allocation in sales order entry, there is a flashlight that says lot serial search. Now, in our case, we only have one. Favorite customer ABF. They have lot number January 10, and it is in order number 192. If I wanted to get to it right off the bat, I am good. So again, this helps you pinpoint if you have some type of a recall or some type of an issue with a lot without having to run a report that tells you what sales order that is, or you could go into invoice data, or sorry, you could go into item maintenance and do research there, but this is a quick way in sales order entry to get to the sales order that has that lot number. I'm hoping that they add this capability in invoice data entry. I'm sure that's coming down the path. And finally, if we go into sales order entry and we go to tab number 3, and we have all of these wonderful fields that are either up top or down at the bottom, I've moved up a few of these fields. Let me kind of explain what some of these are, because we often get questions about some of these. When you see a DS with a checkbox, that means this line is drop shipped. If you're using the sales order with the PO as a drop ship sales order and a drop ship PO, the system says, you know what, if this is drop shipped, it's not really your inventory, so it doesn't touch inventory at all. Okay, so the second you check this off, the system is going to say, you know what, you're drop shipping this from a vendor, so it's part of the invoice. You're definitely going to charge the customer, but I'm not going to take this out of normal inventory. Okay, so understand that DS for drop ship allows you to essentially sell the item, but not really impact inventory to deplete from that item, because it's assumed that that item is coming directly from a vendor to your customer. Vendor number, PO required dates. These fields are available if you wanted to create POs against sales orders. So you can actually link sales orders and POs. You can identify that you want a PO to be created for this item, And if we were to create a PO against the sales order, the system is going to go ahead and document the PO number and the PO required date. Okay, so there's definitely some connection between the SO and PO modules, and this will give you the visibility of how this sales order and a resulting purchase order are related. If we go down the road here, a couple of things. Price level, of course, that field comes from customer maintenance. If we look at our Orange 2 customer, they are a price level 2. There's a whole host of pricing mechanisms within the system that will allow us to alter what we charge this customer. This is telling us what price level this customer belongs to. Discountable. Is the item discountable, yes or no? If the item is discountable, how much is it discountable by? Okay, or discount percentage. So a couple of other fields here. We can take a discount percentage per line. DC for discountable, if we decide to make the order 15% off, it's going to take 15% off the discountable lines. Okay, so, and understand that this is actually coming from inventory, so we can configure our items to be discountable or not. Same thing with commissionable, and is this item subject to tax exemption? So is the item commissionable, and will it be calculated for sales commissions when we update the invoice? Is this item subject to tax exemption? A couple of other fields you may or may not know. For every item, there is a sales GL account number and a cost GL account number. Now, this is driven by the item. We normally do not want to change this because we normally configure the system properly so that it posts where we want it to post. But if we have a certain item or even a miscellaneous item that we want to go to a certain GL account number, we can certainly alter it at this point and have it post accordingly. A couple more things. Warranty code, if we configure the item to come under warranty, maybe a 6-month, 12-month warranty, we can assign it a warranty code here. And if we try and do a return that falls outside of that warranty code, the system will certainly flag us. Most important piece, I think, is a promise date. If we want to run a report based or an open order report by promise date, we can populate our promise dates here so that we can tell everybody when this order or when this line of this order is supposed to be fulfilled. Very important field. Most of the other fields here you can see are not editable. They're just kind of tacking onto the item to tell us a little bit about that item. It's an inventory item, what the product line is, the product type, and the valuation, first in, first out. Does the item have an extended description? Is the item a component of a kit? Yes or no? And finally, if we've configured an alias item for this customer / item code, we'll actually see what the alias item number and its description is. Okay, so definitely, if the system is set up properly, we typically don't have to go into this bottom area and do any work. Everything will happen for us, but there are times that you may wonder, what exactly does this field do, or this field? And of course, if we check or uncheck, there will be repercussions. So this kind of gives you an idea of all the different fields that are in the Lines tab. So if any of those are needed, you can certainly let us know, and we can kind of drill down a little bit further on how to set it up properly. Well, with that said, that is all I have as a demonstration. I know we can open up the floor to questions if you had something else in the sales order module that you wanted to ask a question on.
I am currently unmuting all lines. You all should be unmuted. And I'm not seeing anything in the chat window. So do we have any questions out there? I am not hearing any questions. Well, please know that all of our webinars are recorded and they are posted up on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to go out and check that out. We've got a lot of great information out there. Today, I want to thank Robert for his time and for the great presentation on Sage Sales Order. I think we all learned something today, and Robert, I appreciate you, and we appreciate all of our customers who take time out for their day to join us on these webinars. We have one more webinar for the month of July, and we will be sending out the August webinars the first week of August. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to am@goism.com, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.